Welcome to British Horror Files, a channel where the quiet corners of Britain reveal stories that linger long after the lights go out. Tonight you'll hear a chilling tale, a brush with the unexplained, leaving just enough mystery to make you question what's real. They say Windsor Castle is one of the safest places in Britain. Protected by guards, watched constantly. Home to kings and queens for nearly 1,000 years. But some people believe the castle is not entirely occupied by the living. Because for centuries, staff, soldiers, visitors, even members of the royal family have reported encounters they could never explain. Footsteps in empty corridors, figures appearing late at night, then vanishing without a sound. And one room that guards reportedly hated standing outside alone. But the most unsettling part? Some of the sightings describe the same people, again and again, across decades, sometimes centuries apart. And according to royal stories, whispered for years, even the late Queen Elizabeth II herself reportedly believed Windsor Castle was haunted. Because one account claims she saw the ghost of Queen Elizabeth I walking inside the castle. So tonight, we're uncovering the ghosts of Windsor Castle. And one encounter near the end is said to have left experienced royal guards genuinely terrified. Windsor Castle sits just outside London. Massive stone walls, ancient towers, hidden staircases, endless corridors. It looks permanent, untouchable. But the castle is old, very old. Construction began almost 1,000 years ago after the Norman invasion of England. And throughout those centuries, people suffered there. Prisoners were held within its walls. Illness spread through it. Wars passed around it. And generation after generation of royalty lived there during periods of betrayal, violence, fear, and death. If places absorb history, few buildings in Britain would hold more of it than Windsor Castle. And according to countless reports, some of that history never left. One of the most famous ghosts linked to Windsor Castle is Henry VIII. Even centuries after his death, his presence is still reportedly felt there. Henry VIII ruled with absolute power, feared across England, a king associated with executions, rage, and paranoia. But toward the end of his life, his health collapsed. His legs became badly ulcerated. Walking reportedly caused constant agony. By the time he died in 1547, he was physically broken. And according to witnesses over the years, that suffering never ended. Because late at night, some people claim they still hear him walking through the castle. Heavy footsteps, slow, uneven, sometimes accompanied by deep groaning sounds as if someone is struggling to move. Several reports place the sounds near the Dean's Cloister. Others describe encounters in corridors connected to the older state apartments. But what disturbed witnesses most was the atmosphere before sightings. Sudden silence, pressure in the air, then the feeling that something enormous was approaching around the corner. Some guards reportedly refused to joke about the stories entirely because multiple witnesses described hearing the footsteps before seeing anything. And when figures were allegedly seen, they were often described the same way. Large, broad, dressed in dark Tudor clothing, moving slowly through the shadows before disappearing completely. But perhaps the most famous Windsor ghost story involves Queen Elizabeth I. Elizabeth I ruled during one of the most powerful periods in English history. She became legendary, intelligent, commanding, untouchable. And according to reports connected to Windsor Castle, she may never have truly left. Witnesses over the years have described seeing a tall woman dressed entirely in black, walking silently through parts of the royal library and private corridors. Others claim to hear soft footsteps, followed by the sound of long dresses brushing across stone floors. And one detail appears repeatedly, The figure never seemed aggressive, never rushed. She simply walked calmly through the castle, as if she still belonged there. But the story became far more unsettling because of who was allegedly connected to it. According to royal rumours repeated for years, Elizabeth II herself reportedly claimed to have seen the ghost of Elizabeth I inside Windsor Castle. Now, officially, the royal family never publicly confirmed stories like these, but royal staff and insiders have whispered similar accounts for decades, and the alleged sighting became one of the most famous paranormal stories connected to the monarchy. Because if even the Queen believed something unexplained existed inside Windsor Castle, people began asking themselves a disturbing question. What exactly had she seen? One version of the story claims Elizabeth I was seen near a window late at night, standing motionless, silent, then slowly fading into darkness, not vanishing instantly, fading, as though dissolving into the castle itself. And whether true or not, stories like these survive because Windsor feels different after dark. The castle becomes silent, massive, ancient, the kind of place where every sound echoes endlessly and every shadow feels deeper than it should. But another spirit reportedly connected to Windsor Castle is tied not to power, but tragedy. George III, the king history would later remember as Mad King George. Toward the end of his life, George III suffered severe mental illness. His condition deteriorated badly, and Windsor Castle became closely connected to his final years. He reportedly spent long periods isolated there, blind, confused, mentally collapsing, and according to some witnesses, his presence still lingers inside the castle. Several reports describe hearing distressed muttering from empty rooms. Others claim they heard conversations despite nobody being there. But one story became especially well known. A staff member reportedly entered a room after hearing movement, only to see a man standing beside a window in old royal clothing. The figure appeared disoriented, confused, almost lost, then vanished completely. And what makes stories like these linger is that Windsor Castle is not marketed as a haunted attraction. These stories were often shared privately, quietly, by people working inside one of the most protected buildings in Britain. And then there's perhaps the strangest figure reported inside Windsor Castle, because unlike the others, this ghost is said to be a child. One area of the castle has long been associated with sightings of a young boy standing silently in corridors. Witnesses describe seeing him near staircases or standing motionless near doorways late at night. But what disturbed people most was that he rarely moved. He simply watched. One account described a staff member noticing the figure in the distance, assuming somehow a child had wandered into a restricted section of the castle. But when they approached, the boy disappeared before reaching the end of the corridor. Others claimed the atmosphere during sightings felt deeply wrong, cold, still, as though sound itself had become muted. And stories involving child apparitions tend to disturb people more than almost any other kind of haunting. Because unlike violent ghost stories, these encounters feel quiet, unnatural, like something that should not exist, but does. By now, you might think these are simply old stories attached to an ancient building. But Windsor Castle has another reputation among staff and guards, one rarely discussed publicly, because some people working there reportedly experienced something stranger than seeing figures. They felt watched, repeatedly, especially during night shifts. Several former guards and employees described certain corridors feeling impossible to relax in, not because of noises, but because of overwhelming presence. The sensation that someone was standing directly behind them, watching, silently. One former guard allegedly described hearing footsteps matching his own pace perfectly, only stopping when he stopped. Another claimed a heavy wooden door slowly opened on its own during a patrol, despite nobody being nearby. And whether paranormal or psychological, places like Windsor Castle create a unique atmosphere, especially at night, because the castle was never designed for modern life. After dark, Much of it becomes endless stone corridors lit only by isolated pools of light. Huge, empty rooms, ancient portraits staring from walls, long stretches of silence. And eventually, your brain begins searching for movement, for sounds, for danger. But some guards insisted what they experienced went beyond imagination. And that brings us to one of the most disturbing Windsor stories of all, because according to reports shared over the years, there was one area some guards particularly disliked patrolling alone: the library. Several witnesses allegedly described strange activity there after dark: books displaced, noises echoing between shelves, sudden temperature drops, and the feeling that someone else was inside the room. But one account became infamous. A guard reportedly noticed movement in the library late at night. At first, he assumed a staff member had remained behind. But when he looked properly, he saw a tall figure standing motionless between the shelves, dressed entirely in dark clothing, watching him. The guard allegedly called out. No response. Then the figure began moving slowly toward him, not aggressively, not quickly, just silently walking forward. And before reaching the doorway, it disappeared completely. The guard reportedly refused to patrol that section of the castle alone afterwards. Now, maybe details changed over time. Maybe stories became exaggerated. But reports like these survive because of where they happened. Windsor Castle is not some abandoned ruin. It remains one of the most important buildings in Britain, a functioning royal residence, which somehow makes the stories feel stranger, not less believable, more. Because despite modern security, constant staff, and centuries of skepticism, the stories never stopped. And perhaps that's what makes Windsor Castle so unsettling. Not one ghost, not one sighting, but the sheer number of people across generations who claim they experienced something there. Kings, queens, guards, staff, children. Footsteps in empty corridors, voices behind locked doors, figures disappearing into darkness. And maybe there's a reason ancient castles generate stories like this, because places that witness enough history eventually stop feeling entirely connected to the present. And Windsor Castle has seen nearly 1,000 years of power, fear, betrayal, death, and grief. So if somewhere in Britain was going to feel haunted, perhaps it would be here. The question is, are these only stories created by darkness and imagination? Or when Windsor Castle finally falls silent at night, is something else still walking its corridors? If you enjoy true British horror stories like this one, subscribe to British Horror Files for more. And remember, some places never truly forget their past. Good night, and stay safe in the dark.